Hello everyone, and welcome back to another daily video. My name is Daniel Rogers, and my website is www.labornotinvain.com. This week we're going to be talking about the afterlife, a very complex but interesting subject, and there's a lot of opinions on what the afterlife will be like. There are some who believe that starting at the cross, or maybe even the resurrection of Jesus, that those in Hades left Hades and went to either heaven or hell. There are some who believe that change took place at Pentecost or at the ascension of Christ. There's others who believe that change took place at AD 70 at the fall of Jerusalem. And there's some who believe that the leaving of Hades and going into heaven or into the lake of fire is something that is in our future. Now, regardless of what you believe, there's a question that's on a lot of people's minds, and that is hell a place of eternal conscious torment, or is hell a place of temporary torment, or what is it at all? Now, that's the question that we aim to answer in these two videos. First, let's talk about hell and what hell is. The word hell is really an unfortunate translation. Not really because that's a bad word to use or what have you, but it's because of how our culture has hijacked that word to make it mean something that it's not necessarily. Okay? So, there are several Greek words that are used, that are translated into the word hell in our English Bibles. One of those words is the word Gehenna. And that's the one that's most popularly attributed to this idea of a post-mortem eternal conscious torment chamber. Alright? You've got this other word that's translated hell in the King James Version, and that word is the word Hades. Alright? So you've got Gehenna, and you've got Hades, and you've got one that's mentioned a couple times, and that's Tartarus. Alright? All these words are translated hell in the King James Version. And so it makes it quite confusing when you begin to study what exactly hell is. Let's talk about for a second what hell is not. Hell is not the unpleasant section of Abraham's bosom. That's for sure. And hell is not, well, if you get into talking about what hell is not, then you're going to get a lot of, weird things going on. But hell is not some sort of, thing that you go through to get to heaven if you've been wicked. All right, there's nothing about that in the Bible at all. But hell, at least the word Gehenna, is a reference to basically a all-the-time burning garbage dump outside of Jerusalem that was called Gehenna, or the Valley of Hinnom. Now, if you want a lot of information on that, I would highly, highly encourage you to go to Amazon.com to look up Sam Dawson and find his book on the teachings of Jesus. And there he deals a lot with the subject of hell and how it was originally intended. He uses Thayer's and some other lexicons to define hell and define how it's used and things like that. There's a lot of good work on it. One of my favorite authors on the subject. And I got some others, of course, as well. But in today's video, I want to talk about the difference between passages discussing the afterlife and passages discussing the return of Christ. This is very important for you to catch, because if you don't catch the difference between these two, then you're going to have some trouble in dealing with the subject of hell. Alright? Let me give you a for instance. A lot of people point to the passage that talks about the stripes. Some receive few stripes, some receive many stripes, as a passage dealing with the afterlife. But that is not the case. Luke chapter 12 is talking about the return of Christ and the rewards that will be distributed at that return. It's not talking about the afterlife for here on out. So using that passage for or against the argument of annihilationism, in my opinion, is as out of line. It simply is not discussing that. Let me give you a reason why. In Luke 12:36, Jesus says, "Be like men who are waiting for their master when he returns from the wedding feast, so they may immediately open the door to him when he comes and knocks." See, it's not talking about me and you dying today. It's talking about Jesus returning from the wedding feast. Notice what he says again in verse 43. "Blessed is that slave whom his master finds so doing when he comes." Again, it's talking about the return of Christ. This is a 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 10 sort of scenario. This is not necessarily a all-encompassing talking about everyone of all time situation. Now, is it true that that there are varying degrees of the punishment for the wicked? Well, that's up that's up for more study to decide. But in this particular case, in Luke chapter 12, that is the case. There is varying degrees of punishment for the wicked, but it's in relation to the return of Christ. However, when you look at passages about the afterlife, those are passages not dealing necessarily with the return of Christ. In Revelation 20:12-15, we read about the dead. These are people that are dead. These aren't people that are alive, but these are people that are dead. And notice what happens to them. I saw the dead, the great and small, standing before the throne, and the books were open. Another book was open, which was the book of life. The dead were judged from the things which were written in the books according to their deeds. Now, this is a universal judgment, okay? It's not talking about just Jews. It's not talking about just Gentiles, but it's the dead, great and small. Everybody, all the dead, all the way back to Adam. These are those who had died physically, and they're being judged by God at the destruction of Jerusalem. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it. Death and Hades gave up the dead which were in them. And they were judged, every one of them according to their deeds. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. Now I want you to notice, this lake of fire is not called hell. Hell is not mentioned in this context at all. Gehenna, the word Gehenna is not mentioned in this context, because Gehenna within and of itself has nothing to do with a post-life burning. An example of that, perfect example of that, is Matthew chapter 5. And I don't have the verse pulled up before me here, but let me read it to you from the King James Version. In Matthew chapter 5, Jesus is better explaining the law. And in Matthew chapter 5, he says this: now all of these things have to do with temporal, man-given punishments. Notice what he says in Matthew chapter 5. He says, beginning in verse 21, you have heard that it was said by them of the old time, thou shalt not kill, and whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of judgment. And whoever shall say to his brother, Raca, shall be in danger of the council. But whoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of Gehenna fire. Those are all temporal, man-given punishments. You have the judgment by the courts, you got the council, and you've also got their Gehenna fire. These are all temporal punishments that would be administered by a man. It's not talking about the afterlife, okay? And a lot of the other Gehenna passages are like that as well. However, the lake of fire passage in Revelation chapter 20 and 21 seems to me to be talking about something that is administered to those who are physically dead. And so therefore it's a subject about the afterlife. Is this an eternal conscious torment chamber, or is this a temporary punishment? We're going to find out tomorrow by studying a perfect example of what the afterlife is like for the wicked. Now, until you start guessing what that is, just wait until tomorrow. I believe you're going to enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you watching. This is the end of the video. Feel free to cut it off now. However, if you want to watch for a few more moments, I got to make 2 requests for you. 1, share this video with your friends, with your family, with your Facebook friends, whomever you can. Secondly, if you would, please consider, I know a lot of people have already, making a one-time donation, maybe even committing to a monthly donation to my website, www.labornotinvain.com. That'd help me out more than you know, and we would really appreciate it, as we are currently making, I can't say anything just now, a very important transition in our lives. I'll give the details in a month or 2. Give me some time. Very excited about it. It's not done just yet, but it's looking good. Have a great day, and God bless.